In Hollywood, bringing a dinosaur to life costs millions. Studios like ILM use massive server farms and hundreds of artists to recreate icons like the infamous T-Rex. But do you actually need a blockbuster budget to achieve cinematic realism? Today, me and my friend Wizyrd are teaming up to prove that with little money and the right pipeline, we can breathe life into a dinosaur with help of widely available 3D softwares like Blender and Houdini. Let's dive right into the video. But first, let's define our subject. What even is Parasaurolophus? According to UK Natural History Museum, it was a duck-billed dinosaur with a long, distinctive head crest. It lived in what is now North America during the late Cretaceous period. The head crest being one of the main characteristics makes our hadrosaur one of the most interesting cases in paleontology. Thanks to modern technology and science called paleoacoustics, we are able to recover how the duck-billed giant would most likely have sounded. I began my journey live streaming on YouTube by modeling the skull. I tried to build up the silhouette first, then more complicated parts later. I don't know why, but back then I thought that a pink mud cap is gonna look cool, but now reviewing the footage reminds me of this guy from anime so much and I cannot unsee it. Creating skull, it's not an easy task, but screenshots of models made by other people provide great help along the way. Finding the right placement of forms and anatomy of skull has proven to be quite a struggle, but I continuously fix my mistakes along the way. Off-stream, I add more elements to the whole skeleton, from small metatarsals to large bones like ilium and humerus. Some parts are done by sculpting, while others by polymodeling. It depends on how complex said bone is, and partly just by preference. For the vertebrae, I firstly sculpt the bones and slightly alter their shape if needed. Next, I use a built-in remesher that turns polygons into quads. I do it because the skeleton requires a relatively clean topology so that Wizyrd can run simulations in Houdini. If you wish to utilize this remesh option yourself, you firstly need to go to Data tool in the right side of your Blender file and choose option remesh. Select quads and hit this button. Now you have a bunch of quads, yay! Here I am pretty much done with the model. I just play around and create a render just for the sake of it. Digital muscles are the objects that allow the model to behave as if it was a real animal from flesh and bones. In reality, muscles contract and retract, allowing vertebrates to keep their skeleton together and moving. That is exactly the effect we are trying to recreate here. So I give my best when placing down the pieces together. Obviously, I don't make it up. There are numerous musculoskeletal reconstructions on the internet that you can find and use as reference for absolutely free of cost. One important thing to note here is that you should recreate the mesh that obstructs the movement of muscles, because naturally, when the muscles move, they are stopped by your innards basically. Also, I color code them and name them. I try to make it a good exercise for understanding hadrosaur anatomy too. My focus isn't put on the entirety of muscles, just the main ones that would influence the animal's body when moving. Looking back, it was a really good test of my skills and has built one of the pillars necessary for creating realistic looking dinosaurs. While my friend is busy with rigging animation and firing tests for muscles, I'm sculpting the outer shell of Parasaurolophus. Thanks to the fact that I've already sculpted the skeleton and muscles, I can go straight to the detailing part. I simply duplicate previously created geometry and remesh it. Here I'm slowly building up the wrinkles. Draw brush and masking really come in handy here. When I'm happy with the manual work, I start putting pre-made grayscale textures, which are called alpha textures, allowing me to be done with the wrinkles just a bit faster. Over the last few decades, paleontologists have managed to unearth skin impressions of some hadrosaurs. Now we are aware that they most likely had uniform and relatively small pebbly scales, along with rectangular spikes on their back. So I've decided to adopt this idea to my sculpt to keep it grounded and pretty much up to date. Then it's just a matter of more and more polishing of previously made forms and details. Lastly, so that the model doesn't blow anyone's computer when being animated, I proceed to simplify it by retopology. Retopoflow 3 has to be one of the best free add-ons for retopology. It speeds up my process by folds. Here I don't really care about the poly count, it's not that vital as if I was to make a model for video games. I won't speak too much about retopology here, since the workflow itself is pretty boring. If you want to find out a bit more about retopology, you can watch this breakdown video where I was explaining what's going on in a more detailed manner. Now all that's left is to UV unwrap so that later textures can be applied to the model nicely. While Wizyrd is progressing with the simulations by making the model feel less like a jelly and more like an actual animal, I begin the texturing in Substance Painter. First off, I bake all the necessary maps, such as normals, cavity, ambient occlusion, and so on. I'm gonna keep it honest, I have been experimenting a lot back then, I was very new to the software, but I'm gonna share a neat trick for creating a good base for dinosaur texturing. First of all, create a new fill layer. It has that bucket icon. Pick a dark color of your choice, then duplicate the fill layer, make it lighter and apply black mask by right-clicking and choosing Add Black Mask. Next, right-click on the layer and add fill. Right-click on the viewer, press grayscale and search up curvature. If it doesn't show up, it means you need to check if everything has been baked properly. Now we have a really nice effect that makes the scales pop and look very natural. You can also add a filter, blur, so that there's a nicer transition of colors. An extra step could be changing up the roughness levels. The lighter layer scales should feel more wet while the skin drier. And since we're talking about color here, I wanted to go for a rather naturalistic palette for our Parasaurolophus. Nothing too crazy. I try to make the transitions between layers feel random, so I use a bunch of dirt brushes that are built in the software. I make the underbelly lighter and the top part darker. It's a natural pattern that occurs in most of animals, so basically it's the safe choice. Then it's time to add secondary and tertiary details. And voila, here's the finished model. When we add up my work and the Wizyrd's work, you get this. Amazing. Hey guys, thanks a lot for watching, and I would like to take this short moment before the video ends to thank Wizyrd for collaborating on this video. I mean, his skills are just amazing. Also would like to thank Raul for guiding me throughout the process, because I'm not, at the time I was pretty bad at 3D art. I'm okay right now, but yeah, thanks guys. And yeah, if you like this video, consider subscribing. I don't really ask for that often, but yeah, it really helps out a lot. And yeah, check out Wizyrd's channel. He has very few videos, but maybe if he gets more subscribers, he will make a breakdown video on how to make muscles. We'll see. I really am looking forward if that video ever comes to life, but yeah, see ya.